With the extra point, this is Erik McKinney, joined by Greg Katz. Greg, USC's been active in the transfer portal this offseason. Always a chance to add more guys as you go forward. But so far, four guys have come in from other programs. That's Alabama defensive tackle Ishmael Sopsher, a couple guys from Texas in defensive back Xavier Alford, and running back Keontae Ingram, and Colorado wide receiver KD Nixon. Your most intriguing addition of that group for USC?
Well, it becomes a process of elimination. Uh, let's take KD Nixon for an example. Now, there are good receivers to great receivers already in the program. Not a large amount of them, maybe because of the guys moving on to the NFL. You have to also wonder again: is there anybody who's going to be missing that we don't know about on this team? I'm not saying that there is, but it's also always possible. So there's a reason he's coming. You take a look at Alfred, the safety from Texas. So he's my next elimination. They need somebody to fill it in, but you have to. It's a two-edged coin because these guys were not happy where they were. Okay, and if they were starting, I don't think they'd have been in the transfer portal. And maybe if they're even this in second team saying, I got a shot in spring practice. So there's a reason they're coming. Of course, they deserve as much chance for whatever the reason they're coming to show that, what their personal belief is. Ingram is an interesting one. Now, this is a guy that I think is pretty good. But then again, it comes back to not that he's not pretty good, because he did get hurt and he slid down the depth chart, and that can happen. But what was he told about the Trojans, and their the devotion to the running game? I mean, not to belabor for the millionth time, they came in last, in the Pac-12 in 2020 in rushing, but that is a statement of fact. And if you're a running back, you ask yourself, well, what do I want to do when I get there? Do I want to run the ball? Well, I'm sure they, had him, you're going to catch the ball, you're going to run the ball, you're going to learn how to pass block. So I'm sure that they sold him on it. But the guy who I think personally at the top would be Sopsher. I think this is a guy that could really make a difference immediately. This guy was really highly recruited. And let's face it, do you know any player that gets recruited by Alabama that isn't really good? And when you
Most of
get,
them are.
yeah, and when you go to Alabama, you have to play your hardest at all times. You have to work your way up the depth chart, and you have to say, you know what, I'm willing to play when I'm ready to play because there's great players in front of me, and they're going to recruit great players behind me. Now, some players adjust better than others to that type of scenario, but I'm going to say that because Sopsher didn't wait around, okay, and he came immediately, and he came to SC. The question is he better than anybody they have right now? And if the answer is yes, and he's excited to play, then I think that he's going to be a real important piece to watch. Is he going to be all Pac-12 his first season? I don't have the slightest idea, but you get the impression that the ability is there. So if the head is there, I think that's a good one.
That's definitely my guy for most important. And you mentioned that for intriguing, which I kind of set it up so so I could answer it this way too. I'm going to say Ingram is the most intriguing, and it's because of kind of questions about that running game and how does that work. And you're bringing a guy in where you have two really, senior veteran running backs coming back, and you went out and got this guy. You clearly see a fit for him and how to use him. That to me becomes the most intriguing aspect. Is this something where the coaches decide, hey, we got our guy now, we're gonna give it to him, right? We're gonna look to use the running game, we're gonna get him out in space, we're gonna throw him the ball. That's kind of our lead back. I think that's where he becomes intriguing. I don't necessarily think he immediately leaps these guys or jumps ahead of the guys that have been here, but like you mentioned, what is that plan that they have for him? Why did he come in? And clearly it's a depth issue. Running back, when you lose Marquise Step, You don't want to go into a season with a bunch of injury prone guys, which is sort of what Stephen Carr and Vavai Malepeai have been over their careers. But a lot of talent, and he becomes kind of my biggest question of those guys. How does this guy get used? Because does he fit in right away? And what can he do if USC ultimately does decide, hey, we're going to go with one back, we're going to give him the ball, and we're going to really try to push a run game to go with the passing game. So I'm interested to see kind of what he does, and that's a very, to me, intriguing addition of those four. But I like what they did with all four of them. I think it was a good use of bringing guys in at those different positions. And like you said, if we're going for importance and maybe who could make the biggest impact quickly, Sopsher is definitely a guy to look for there. So again, USC bringing in four transfer portal additions and a lot of expectations, I think, for all four of those guys starting quickly in 2021.